Welcome to the Pretty Deadly podcast. My name is Susie Collett. I'm a violent crime survivor, a martial artist, and I'm the founder of Pretty Deadly Self-Defense.
And I'm Home Wasim, a fitness professional and certified Pretty Deadly trainer living in Islamabad.
We're exploring the kinds of violence women around the world face, the different ways we defend ourselves on a daily basis, and of course, sharing our self-defense tips and techniques as we go.
If there's anything you would like us to explore, send us your questions and comments to hi@teamprettydeadly.com. We'll put the link in the show notes.
Okay. Hi, Susie. How's it going?
Hi, May. Good. How are you?
I'm doing well.
Good. I love your sweater.
Thanks. My mom bought it, but then she realized it wasn't her vibe, and so I ended up stealing it from her.
Well, I like it. It looks good on you.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
So, Susie, I remember you told me that when women come and do this Pretty Deadly course, they undergo some changes which manifest in the way they dress up. Sometimes they dye their hair or they get a piercing. And when you shared that with me, I found that really interesting. And I was like, I'm going to ask Susie about this. Like, what is this phenomenon? Why does it happen?
Well, I think the phenomenon, it happens more with a change of hairstyle.
Right.
Occasionally there's a tattoo or a new piercing or something, but it tends to more be with new hairstyles, and it's not everybody. It's like in a particular class, it's maybe one person, maybe two people. This phenomenon comes from going through a deep transformation. So we know as women that when we're going through a big change in our life, we usually change our hair.
Yeah.
In some big way. And I know with it, so I've never had long hair like yours. And I know that friends of mine and my sister-in-law, for example, who all have long, beautiful hair like yours, the idea of cutting it short is like freaky. They think about it, and then at one point in their lives, they usually try it, and then they end up kind of hating it because it's just a different vibe, right? But even women with really long hair, as part of their identity, will change some aspect of it, not cut it short or even shoulder length, but maybe dye it in some way,
Right.
but do some kind of change. So we know that we do this because it's, for us, it kind of signifies a fresh start, right?
Right.
And
Yeah,
I
I
think
think it's also sort of, it's kind of badass to have purple hair or blue hair. And it also signifies maybe rebelling against the status quo.
yeah, it can. Again, I think because I've never dyed my hair purple or blue or green, I don't know. I've never had the desire to dye my hair an unusual hair color. So I don't know if that's rebelling against the status quo or not. What I do know is that this usually happens after the third or fourth class, but it happens after a specific exercise that we do in Pretty Deadly, which is about connecting to our intuition. And part of that exercise is also helping us to recognize where, if we've experienced any kind of traumatic event in the past, specifically around violence against women, it helps us to identify where we actually helped ourselves. And it helps us to forgive ourselves a bit for feeling like we've let ourselves down, because I think a lot of women feel that way. And men do too, by the way. Men don't talk about violence that they experience and then feel traumatized by, because that's not manly. But they can also feel like they've let themselves down. But we're focused on women in this particular question, that going through that exercise for a lot of women is a release of that part of themselves that has felt shamed or that's been beating themselves up. So there's a sense of release and a sense of relief. And yeah, perhaps even a rejection of you know, that story that's been told, and that's why maybe hair turns blue or green, because you are rebelling against what people were telling you, you know,
Right.
and claiming a part of your own identity that has been distant from you for a while.
Yeah. Or it could be the opposite, that you feel more like yourself minus that shame, and you want to be more expressive. So colorful hair just signifies that you're maybe more in love with your life, maybe you're more joyous.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Like I said, because I've never had the desire to dye my hair.
Yeah. When I started doing stand-up comedy, I remember I dyed one streak purple.
Mhm.
I don't fully dye my hair because I don't believe in, chemically treating my hair. But I did that, and it did make me feel a bit different and unique and edgy, I guess. Also, a lot of the other comedians in the group had dyed hair, and maybe I was trying to be more like the bag I was flocking with. So there was that. Um,
I mean, I have dyed my hair. When I was younger, I always dyed my hair black.
oh,
Um,
nice.
and then
I
I went through a period where then I went through a period where I bleached it white all the time. So it's been dyed, but only black or white. And then it's been shaved. I've just never had the desire to dye it like blue or green or pink.
But even shaving your hair is going against what's common, right?
Yeah, it's great though. I have to say, I highly recommend it.
Really?
Yeah, one, it's like you just get all new growth, so that's nice.
Yeah.
Um, if it's really hot, so when I did that, it was many, many years ago in New York, and it was early spring. So over the summer, having a shaved head was great because I could stay mumuch cooler.
It does suit a lot of women. Like, I think her name is Sinead O'Connor.
Yeah.
That's
Mhm.
she, she went bald, and it was a look that really suited her.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, you know, it's also a statement. So it's not something that everyone feels comfortable doing. But when we're changing our hair, we are making a statement for women. Our hair is such an expressive, it's a way that we express ourselves and our personalities in the world.
Yeah.
You know, so changing our hair can also signal to the rest of the world, something about me has changed, and I want you to recognize that.
Yeah. Like, I'm more confident now, for example.
Mhm.
Um, it reminds me of the revolution in Iran. After Mahsa Amini's death, a lot of women are cutting like a strand of their
Right.
hair.
Or cutting their hair off completely.
Yeah.
Actually, I mean, some women have really been cutting their hair off. And yeah, it's that, I mean, hair is it's such a powerful thing because yeah, I was thinking about the revolution in Iran, and I was thinking, isn't it, it's crazy. And not just around Iran, but also, you know, the ongoing questions about whether women are allowed to wear hijab or not, whether they should or shouldn't. There is so much conflict around women's hair. It's hair.
Yeah. What's the big deal?
Exactly. What's the big deal? And yet apparently it's incredibly powerful, which
Yeah.
is so weird to me. You know, it's a, you know, in Hasidic and Orthodox Jewish culture, when women are married, they have to shave their heads,
Really?
wigs,
Oh,
because they need to, they can't risk seducing another man with their hair.
they can do that with a wig too, though.
Well, and if you've ever seen their wigs, you would recognize that not so much. They're not the nicest wigs, but the it's more about, you know, you shave your head so that only your husband, you can only be your husband's property, and you're not attractive to anyone else, including to him. So a lot of women as well, when we shave our head, or we're forced to shave our head, that's also stripping us of our personality and our femininity.
Yeah.
So when I think about this regarding, you know, Jewish women in Hasidic families or in Orthodox families, I think, you know, once you're married, you basically have to strip your own humanity in order to serve that family, which is, to me, of course, horrifying. When women in Iran have been cutting their hair, they're also expressing their personalities in a really, really forceful way for that culture. You know,
It's
you make us keep this long hair for your pleasure, and now we're cutting it off.
Yeah.
But by cutting it off, we're showing that you are cutting us off. You know, so
Exactly.
it's just such a fascinating
It's
thing,
also a
women's
way of
hair.
like taking their power back, because this girl Mahsa was literally killed for showing her hair. And these
Right,
women are saying, it's my hair. I can do whatever I want with it. And
right,
I'm willing to like maybe sacrifice my own hair for the sisterhood, for our collective safety, and our
exactly.
collective.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's just women's hair is just such a fascinating, fascinating thing. Why does it, in every culture, why is it so important?
It is very attractive for sure, but why
Yeah,
is it used against women?
but I'm gonna say yes, or I'm gonna say not always, because personally, I find hair kind of gross.
Really, even like hair on the head.
Yeah, it's dead. It's like dead stuff that's just sticking to your head, you know, especially when it like falls out all over people's showers and stuff. I just find it kind of disgusting.
It's not
So
entirely dead because it is taking nutrients from your head, you know.
yeah, it's like a leech. So I can say though that, I mean, definitely I can recognize where people's hair is beautiful. But at the same time, there's another aspect of me that's always a little bit disgusted by it. So
Falls on the floor, then it does look disgusting.
yeah. So I mean, what an interesting thing. And yet for women, this is a part of our definition of femininity and such a part of our own identities. And even when you look at women who have transitioned from, you know, a male gender that they were male sex that they were born into becoming women, they tend to grow their hair long as part of a signifier of womanhood, of
Fertility.
femaleness, right? I don't know. That's not to say they don't exist. It's just to say that I personally don't know of any transgender woman with a pixie.
That's true. They want to appear more feminine and
Right,
natural. So it's an
right.
easy feminine. Yeah.
Right. So, but that's not to say that it doesn't exist. I just don't know, but it's not something that normally pops up in media. And when we're talking about trans women or we're looking at photos or social media of trans women, they always tend to have at least shoulder length hair.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which for me is long. That's the definition of long hair for me when it's down to here.
Oh, yeah. I've noticed that in America, this is considered long. But
Yeah.
here, like my hair is medium length. It's not very long.
Okay.
Women
Looks
have much
long then.
longer hair. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, so in Pretty Deadly, women, when we've seen women come back to class at the next class during a course with a change in their hair, we know that they've gone through some kind of transformation that's positive. You know, the flip side to that
I
is,
have a pretty deadly booklet manual with me, and I was actually admiring these girls' hair. One of
yes,
them is blue, and one is, I think, reddish.
mhm,
They have really beautiful hair.
they do,
Really, yeah.
they do. They're very confident women as well. Um, what I wanted to say is that there's a flip side to that, in that, you know, sometimes we see women who look like it, to put it very in a very nasty way, people might say like, oh, you've let yourself go. You know, you've fallen apart, your hair's a mess, it's unbrushed, or it's just a bad cut, your clothes aren't very attractive, your body's not in good shape. And people, I think, sometimes don't realize that that's can also be a form of self-defense.
Oh, right.
That sometimes, you know, so whether it's hair as new hair, color, cut, style, or it's hair as something that I'm using to keep people away from me.
Yeah.
You know, there is two sides
They
to
don't
that
want to
coin.
seem too
Yeah.
attractive and they don't want attention. I think the hijab is also worn for those reasons. I have some cousins who cover, one of them even does the niqab, and you
Mhm.
know, their socioeconomic status is much lower and they have to travel through public transport. So they feel safe when nobody can see their faces. I, it's easy for people in Pakistan, especially liberals, to judge such people and say, they're extremists. But we can't really relate with them. We travel in our own cars, but if we had to do that, the amount of staring that goes on in Pakistani transport, public transport, is insane.
Mhm.
So those women, I think they cover their heads because they feel safer, because
Yeah.
they're less attractive. Yeah.
Yeah, well, definitely. I think most women have been the target of those stares. And yeah, I mean, sometimes it does feel like if I cover everything up and you can't see anything, then
I'm
that will
safe.
stop you from staring, and I feel a little bit safer.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're listening to the Pretty Deadly Self Defense podcast, hosted on Acast and available on iTunes, Spotify, Audible, and our website at prettydeadlyselfdefense.com, and wherever you get your favorite pods.